So first, let's start with the basic idea of what the subject is. Our complete understanding will be dividing into certain parts. Try to establish nature of the subject, that is geography, so that you have an idea of what you are supposed to learn in the subject. Part of the discussion that is typically to the terms of a optional subject, and so what it entails, and the third part, that is how we propose to cover this particular subject. So let's start with the first part, that is geography as a subject. And so the first thing that will come up is, what is geography? So to start with, first thing, let's establish about this subject geography. That is, this whole thing geography I can divide it into two parts. First, that is geo, which means earth, and graphy, that is study, which establishes the fact that geography is nothing but the study of earth. Now, from here, let's try to establish a proper definition related to this subject. Okay, so now establish the definition that geography is study of earth. Now let's try to understand what you guys think of geography. How will you try to define geography? Because I have almost completely ruled out the first answer that you can give me, that is the study of earth. So let's go beyond that. Let's try to understand, what do you think about the subject? Yes, ma'am. Okay, perfect. Yes, yes, sir. Study of our surroundings. Yes, please. Non-living functions of the planet, that should be called as geography. Yes. Okay, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes. Perfect, perfect. So let's try to understand the dimensions that are present in the answers that you yourself have given me. Okay, first, the idea came up that, okay, it is a study of the physical features of the earth, or it is the study of the non living component of the earth, as well as along with that, I have got the answer that it can be the study of environment, ecology, living beings, population to that extent also. And this is from where the interesting thing starts. Okay, pretty much like we would be divided on the definition. This is exactly what happened when geography started as a subject. Okay, initially, right there from the beginning, the first fight amongst geographers began with respect to what to study in geography, what should be the subject matter of geography. So, very obviously, when it started, it was all and all about the physical aspect related to the earth. So trying to understand the physical aspect of the earth, we can just think of the idea that, okay, the non-living components, the abiotic components on the earth may include land, may include air or atmosphere, may include the hydrosphere. And first, the idea, the study of this should become geography. And that's where the first aspect came up, which was called as the physical geography. But that definitely, some geographers argued that because man is living on the earth, you cannot isolate earth from man or man from the earth. And because it is a comprehensive system, it is an integrated system, nothing is there in isolation. And that's why geography cannot be just a study of the physical non-living aspect of the earth. And hence came up another school of thought now, which became another branch of geography that now we call as human geography. But not all. First, okay, two broad categorization, the branches were established: physical geography, human geography. But yet, a new discussion began. The new discussion began the moment you put man on the earth. Earth definitely existed before man appeared on the earth, and earth at that time also as a system was surviving and thriving. So the question comes up, geography entails either study of the physical aspect or the human aspect of the earth. Who dominates? That became the most interesting dichotomy in geography to begin with. Wherein, in the first aspect, the first school of thought that developed, that has been called as the determinism or deterministic school of thought, mentalism. Now, this school of thought believed that nature is the master and man is the slave. That is, nature commands man. And to a great extent, this aspect is true also. When you see the way in which people live, the occupation there that people profess, or the type of society that emerges, in fact, to the extent that the type of clothes that people wear, the type of food that people eat, all of that in one way or another is impacted by the nature. So the people living in the hilly regions and people living in the coastal region, they will have different food habits. They will have different clothing patterns. Their societal arrangement would be different. And that's what determinism was all about. Deterministic school of thought believed that nature is the master and nature commands man. But when this came up, absolutely there was a opposing school which came up now, which has been called as possibilism. So possibilism now, possibilism put forwarded the idea, no, humans are capable of choosing amongst different possibilities. And in fact, to that extent, humans can create possibilities. Now, very obviously, give examples if you see. Take, for example, when it began, geographers like Aristotle talked about it. And in these times, they were talking initially about, let's say, the regions on the earth where people can live and where people cannot live, which they called as acumen and non-acumen regions. And very clearly it was identified that only temperate zones are acumen regions, okay, where people can live. Torrid zones means nearby the equator where the temperature would be very high, or the frigid zones where the higher latitudes the temperature would be very low. They are not livable. And so they started with whole of this aspect in determinism, and it went to the extent where the geographers have even went to the extent where they have talked about the behavioral aspect, the religious aspect, also getting influenced directly by the nature. So contrary to, now says that humans are able to create possibilities. A very good example in the present time, if you see, let's say Alaska region, or let's say Siberian region. According to determinists, these are the regions which are not livable, where population should not thrive. But yet in the present time, we find with the development of new technologies, people living over there. In fact, to that extent, later, these same geog- German geographers, later they found out that yes, people do live in African regions, okay, the torrid zones of Africa, and they have created their own lifestyle, their own way to cope up with the harsh climatic conditions. And these were the dichotomies that the geography started with. And geography began as a subject, as a discipline. There were a lot of dichotomies. And here, because I'm using repeatedly the term dichotomy, primarily what we have to understand, dichotomy is a state where two parallel school of thoughts exist. Some believe in this school of thought, some believe in that school of thought. So one type of dichotomy we see, physical geography versus human geography, came up in terms of what to study. Secondly, the dichotomy related to determinism versus possibilism came up, in which was related to who dominates whom. And hence, going beyond that, geography has been fully defined by Tuan as, if you see, geography is the study of earth as a home of people. Now, this definition itself includes every aspect of what we have talked about. Yes, it is the study, not just the study of earth, do not study it, but rather study it as the home of people. The moment you include this particular phrase into, automatically start studying this aspect also. It is about interdependability, wherein we can say very clearly over here that yes, people are operate, but at the same time, the earth is also dependent. Now, earth dependent on people. What should it mean? Earth dependent on people. Earth is not dependent on people. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Let's take that idea. Why not? See, no better time can be there, no better phase can be there on the Earth's history than the present time to establish this particular fact, where we are talking about human induced climate change. And now humans are changing the face of the earth so much that the processes, the phenomena, the geological phenomena and all are getting impacted. So we must be reading here and there, okay, the disasters, let's say, for example, and we are saying human induced disasters. Or when we talk about climate change, we are saying due to climate change, the rainfall pattern across the earth is changing, or the frequencies and the intensities of cyclones are changing, or more and more landslides are happening. All of these are, let's say, human induced. I'll not establish 100% relationship because even IPCC does not do that. But yet, definitely, this definition establishes the fact that humans have the capability of impacting the earth. So now we will moderate that particular phrase that you denied. Yes, earth is not dependent on people, but yet there is some relation. There is some impact of human beings on the earth. That is something, at least at this time, we cannot deny. This is to start with the definition of geography, what geography entails. Now, from here, with the definition itself, we can understand now the branches of geography, which already I have told now to you now. The geography now, initially itself, was divided into two branches, which we identify as the physical geography, and another aspect that we identify as the human geography. Now, when you think of physical geography, still in the present time, also geographers identify as core geography. So, for understanding this, you can recall in our schools, we were taught a Venn diagram like this with respect to the earth. And here, what was given, the three realms on the earth, the abiotic realms on the earth. And these three abiotic realms on the earth, one was related to land, One was related to air and one was related to water. The first one was called as lithosphere, absolutely yes. The second one was called as atmosphere, absolutely yes. And the third was as hydrosphere. So these are the different realms, abiotic realms on the earth. Study is primarily related to this only. So let's say, for example, when you study the lithosphere, the study of lithosphere is something what we call as geomorphology. Similarly, study of atmosphere is what we call as, and study of hydrosphere is what we call as oceanography. So broadly, very easily from this diagram, identify these three aspects over here. Along with that, because to man, and when we talk about man, definitely we will be talking about all the dependabilities. Most importantly, depend on flora, the the vegetation of soil. So over here, in addition, we also study under physical soil, which we call as pedology. So primarily pedology, study of soil, we put broadly under is what we will be calling as biogeography. All of this later also we will when we see the syllabus of the geography. Giving you a brief idea of how to just understand and decode the subject. Second aspect over here, when I come to that, becomes human geography. Now, under human geography, every aspect of human being to study. And so, first thing I'll have to understand is the resources on which we are going to depend. The resources on which we are going to depend primarily would be the natural resources. And in these natural resources, the if I in terms of economic activities, I can very easily divide the economic activities into, let's say, primary economic activities, secondary economic activities, tertiary economic activities. Yes, give me an example of primary economic activity. Agriculture is a primary economic activity, secondary economic activity. Manufacturing, secondary sector. Very clearly, this gives a clear idea of what should entail human geography in terms of the economic activities. Plus, activities are going to depend on resources. Like when you are talking about the manufacturing sector will require a lot of raw materials. These raw materials can be minerals. These raw material can be energy resources like coal, petroleum, etc. And so over here, the aspects that we are going to study would become resources. Along with resources, now we can establish the different types of economic activities. So let's say primary economic activity, agriculture, secondary economic activities in terms of industries, tertiary economic activities in terms of transportation. So you establish resources over here, you establish different economic activities over here. And now, depending on all of this, the human settlement will come up at the place. So whenever the moment you talk about human settlement, two aspects come into picture over here. The cultural aspect comes into here picture here, which will include the population, the different attributes of population, like let's say literacy rate, sex ratio, or the age structure of the population. That becomes first aspect. And second aspect, that is settlement. Okay, so these are the aspects related to human association. And now, most important, the interesting development happened later. So, what was identified, just give me a moment. Okay, so now, okay, so once the human association has been established, the most interesting development happened was the struggle for power becomes an inherent nature of human association. And this came up very obviously in the form of the development of nation states. So earlier there were kingdoms. Okay, now after that came up the concept of nation states. But yet the uh, concept remained almost similar. Earlier, when the kingdoms were there, the kingdoms used to fight amongst themselves. Later, when the concept of nation state developed, yet the same thing continued, and the countries kept fighting with each other, and it's very clear with World War One, World War Two, and all. So during this time, a new idea came up, or a new idea was proposed, that the political aspect also clearly depends on the geographical aspect. And this is very interesting idea to develop. Now let's understand. Say, for example, if you see in the initial times, okay, just post World War One, there was a series of colonialism that was taking place across the world. And if you see all the colonial powers of those times, okay, be it the British, be it the French, what was one thing common in them with respect to geography? They were all European. Okay, let's say first. Okay, second, to exploit resources. Absolutely. All of them were very strong naval powers. Be it Dutch, be it French, or be it Britishers. Because their geography allowed that. They were coastal nations. They were able to develop very well their naval power. And so they were on a spree of colonialism. But yet, as you move towards World War II and so, you see there would be rise of the power that is Germany. Now Germany has no access to sea, but yet the concept changed, wherein the idea now was more of a defendability, and defendability was more wherein the country would have a interior location, a continental location. So the geography definitely was going to decide what would be the political aspect related to the global politics. Plus, in the similar manner, if you see, let's talk about again these colonial powers, they were going for colonialism primarily to take control of the natural resources. So whichever areas were resource abundant, which is the aspect of geography, which feature of geography, okay, they were the areas which were the target areas for colonialism. Okay, you talk about the African countries, you talk about South Asian countries which are rich in natural resources. All of these became the target of colonialism. So here developed a new branch of geography under human geography itself, which was called as political geography. So this is where we can see a number of different branches came up with respect to with respect to geography. And in the more recent time, one more branch which has become very popular is environmental geography, because of the aspects related to climate change, the impact of human beings on the climate. So environmental geography has come to the fore. Based on this, now let's try to understand the syllabus that has been prescribed by UPSC for geography optional. One thing that we will have to understand is, for any optional subject per se, the most important thing is to decode your syllabus. Because unless and until you are able to decode your syllabus, you will not be able to interlink your answers. The interlinkages would be missing. And this is exactly what in the present time UPSC is demanding. The demand is that interlinkage, the demand is the comprehensibility of that. And that's where, based on what we have developed the ideas till now, let's try to understand this syllabus. Paper 1, paper 2, both the papers have 10 units each. Paper 1 primarily is what we call as world geography. Paper 2 is what we identify as Indian geography. Paper 1 now has been divided into two parts, part A, part B, and it has 5 units each. So this all is part A, this all is part B. Now part A, if you see, is physical geography, and part B is what is all and all human geography. So physical geography, already we have established this thing: geomorphology, study of land, climatology, oceanography. Apart from that, biogeography, study of soil, pedology and all, plus environmental geography included in this. These are the 5 units in part A. After that, we move on to the part B, wherein primarily, if you see, economic geography is one aspect, which I told you in terms of resources and activity. Second part we established was population, which means cultural and settlement geography. And after that, primarily the application part with respect to regional planning, models and theories. I'll talk about this later. This is paper 1. As you move to paper 2 is nothing but extension of paper 1 primarily. And paper 2 very clearly explicitly mentions geography of India. And the sequence is properly similar. Let's say, for example, first chapter talks about the physical setting, and here in this one single chapter, all the aspects related to geomorphology, climatology or oceanography would be included in this chapter itself. So here you study the physical features of India, including the physiographic divisions, their formations, along with that climate with respect to monsoon, rainfall distribution, along with that the coastal aspect, the properties of coastal regions and all. From here, rest of the part is human geography. So here the division lies here: the physical geography, the human geography. The extension is pretty much similar. What is there in paper 1? You talk about resource, agriculture, industry, transport, communication and trade. Up to here is all about economic activities. Yes, this is exactly, I'll compare it from here, this chapter and its extension over there in terms of 4 chapters in paper 2. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Resources, primary economic activity, secondary economic activity, tertiary economic activities. Then from here we move on to population and settlement, and population and settlement here comprises of cultural settings of India, all the aspect related to population, tribes, everything, and going beyond that the settlement aspect. And so over here, when I see the next chapter, population and settlement geography, 2 chapters from here. So now from paper 1 itself, how many chapters you have got in paper 2? The extension I'm talking about is 4 plus 2 here and 1, 7. 7 already done over here. Going beyond that, now next we come to regional development and planning. Now this regional development and planning is a very interesting chapter, and in fact in the present time there is a lot of emphasis in our paper which is put on this particular chapter, because of the developmental aspect of governance that we are talking about these days in the country. There are a number of development schemes, programs that are running, but for all these developmental schemes and programs, one aspect that comes into picture is regional disparities. See, when you talk about underdevelopment of any particular region, definitely underdevelopment of one region can be due to, let's say, administrative apathy or negligence from the government side. That's one aspect. But parallel to that, there are some natural reasons also, okay, which cannot be denied. Let's take, for example, when you talk about the hilly regions, the underdevelopment of hilly regions, let's forget for once the administrative apathy and all those factors. But what would be that compelling factor or the limiting factor for the development of these regions? The accessibility. The accessibility is a major reason, which is a natural factor. Similarly, when you talk about the island regions again the same aspect related to the isolation in terms of geography. So there are geographical reasons we call as regional disparities. Idea over here in this chapter is in paper 1, when you talk about regional planning, here we establish the basics of regional disparities as well as how to do the planning. And the moment you move on to paper 2, you directly apply those concepts. So here very clearly has been mentioned the ideas like the regional disparities in terms of hilly region backwardness or the coastal area development, in fact to that extent tribal area development, and what are the schemes and programs the government is running with respect to this. So this is a very natural extension. From there, you move on to the political aspects, which I have told you, political geography, and we have something of a unit called as contemporary issue. Now this contemporary issue primarily comprises of all the environmental issues basically which are going on in the present time, and primarily you relate this more to the current aspect, the current affairs aspect. So this is how the syllabus has been distributed for geography. Okay, so that's where we say once if we understand the subject, you need not to mug up the syllabus also. Everything is on your fingertips and everything is very logically arranged. There is a reason for that, and from paper 1 to paper 2 there is a very natural extension. So from here, with understanding of this syllabus, let's try to understand the idea of geography as an optional. When we decide to choose geography as an optional, what are the things that we consider? Primarily, majority of the things you guys would have already considered, or already we know a lot of things, but let's try to understand all these and try to understand the myths also associated with this particular subject. First thing about this optional, when I see why this optional, what's the feature related to geography as an optional in UPSC, the first thing is related to the nature of this subject. And what I see with this subject is a semi-scientific nature. So we call geography as semi-scientific, not purely scientific, not purely humanities, somewhere lying in between that. And why is it so? Because definitely when Earth as a system is running, it would be governed by some established laws. And that's what the natural sciences do. Okay, take for example, be it physics, be it chemistry, what are they doing? Okay, or be it biology, what are they doing? They are trying to understand the different aspects of this system, which is the Earth. And so very obviously, these basic laws, scientific laws, okay, will have to be understood in order to understand the working of the Earth as a system. So we are going to use science. But again, the second aspect that this is not pure sciences. Because first of all, it entails a lot of human aspect, human geography aspect. And second, here we are not going to derive anything. We are not going to study Newton's laws and or the gravitational law, gravitational formula, and then try to understand anything. Okay, we are going to develop the concept, and based on those concepts, we are going to develop a broad idea of how this system, and that's why this is semi-scientific. Now, being semi-scientific, what is the result of this? Is first and very visible impact is this is a subject which is chosen by maximum number of aspirants. So if I give you a basic idea in terms of rough numbers, okay, averaging out the numbers, okay, if 11,000, 12,000 aspirants appear in mains examination, the data that we have from UPSC reports. So out of those 12,000, almost you will find 4,500 to 5,000 people, okay, having geography as the optional. That's because of its semi-scientific nature, where people from science background, people from humanity backgrounds, anyone can take it. and anyone do take it. And that's why you have these large numbers in terms of the number of aspirants who take geography as the optional, which makes it a very popular optional. Yes. Geography would be called as mother of all sciences because of the coverage aspect related to the subject. Okay, no other subject covers all these different aspects related to working of geography. And because once you go into trying to understand the working of Earth, you are going to include the aspects related to physics also, you are going to include the aspects of chemistry also, include the aspects of biology also, everything. Okay, but not going into the scientific aspect of that. Yes, absolutely. Sciences as well as humanities, the spread that I have shown you. Yes. So this is where the nature of this subject makes it very popular, extremely popular amongst the aspirants. Secondly, along with this, one another aspect is, if we see geography as a subject in India especially, there are not many universities which offer masters in geography, or at the college level geography is not very popular. And there is a reason behind that, because the application field of geography in India as a profession has not developed very well till date. Okay, although over the period of time, in the present time, its scope is constantly increasing. Okay, with more and more focus on the human aspect, human geography aspect, the settlement geographers these days are very popular, highly paid profession. Similarly, so city planning and all that done by urban geographers. Similarly, take for example environmental geographers. Okay, with the present emphasis on climate change and trying to understand whole of the system. So scope these days are increasing, but I'll say that traditionally the scope for geographers in India has not been too much, and that's why not a number of colleges offer this particular course at the master's or the PhD level. But one thing that becomes handy for us due to this particular factor, okay, is that almost everyone, or let's put it in some realistic numbers, would be something like almost 90% of the people who are taking geography as optional did not have had geography in their situation. And what happens? That everyone is scratch only. Okay, in other cases, you will find, okay, someone has had this particular subject in their graduation, someone has done PG in that. They already have a sound knowledge or sound base. They only develop the application part and align it with the UPSC requirement. Here, that's not the case. Okay, you sit in the class and 90% of the people don't know geography. First day for everyone, they are trying to understand the meaning of geography altogether. So that provides a level playing field to everyone. And that's where, again, that's one another factor of the subject being so popular amongst the aspirants, that it's a safe optional. It's a safe optional in terms of the disparity is not present right there from the beginning. Of course, 2 or 3 months down the line, the levels will differ for different people. So that's the first aspect related to this particular subject. Second, apart from that, after is the scoring aspect. And so scoring aspect, when you see in terms of scoreability of this particular subject, we keep it on the higher end. Okay, higher end where in the present time, if you see scoring somewhere very clearly in the range of 220 to 250 is not a big deal here, which makes up almost 50%. 500 would be your total marks in optional. Okay, this is with a, I'll say, a slightly above average attempt that if you give, okay, you can easily be in this range. And with some systematic efforts that would be put over here, you can easily take this up somewhere in the range of 280 to 300, which is a range, if you reach, this is a range where you will get a proper rank. This is why we call this as a safe optional. Safe optional where disaster generally do not happen. Okay, very obviously. Okay, ignorance invites disaster. So whether it would be a disaster or not, a lot of it is in your hands. But what we are establishing is, yes, if we give it a mediocre attempt, we would be in somewhere in this range, which is also not bad. But here you will have to struggle with your GS marks. Okay, you'll have to score something over there to compensate for this. So from here to here, this journey is almost something like 30 to 40 marks. Okay, that's something where we will have to work upon. And if you reach over here, you definitely are in the range or the ranking range where you will get the proper rank. Plus, in terms of scoring potential of this particular subject, one very specific aspect is over here, there is very little scope of interpretation, because majority of the things are established theories, and the ideas, if you know it. And so when interpretation, this interpretation aspect comes down, the scope of scoring becomes more, because now you are not dependent on examiner's view. Okay, that while checking the answer, what is his views about this particular topic. So in this case, obscurity is less. There is more and more of a theory based subject, and a great part of it, especially physical geography, if you say physical geography, there is not much of the changes that you can make in the answer, and there are not much a scope for the deviation. Okay, if someone has given this particular theory, they have given the theory, it has to work like that. If the Himalayas have to be formed by the plate interactions of Eurasian plate and Indian plate, it has to be like that. You can't change it to, I think it can be African plate. That's not up to you. And so there is not much of the scope of deviation, and that's where you remain on the safer side. So this is one idea over here. Plus, given the nature of paper 2, and paper 2 I have shown you, only first chapter is physical settings of India. Okay, rest is human geography aspect. Plus you have political geography, okay, which is pretty much aligned with your IR, okay, what you study in GS. Okay, and very interestingly, if I tell you this particular part over here, that is political aspects. You guys must have got this handout in which syllabus is given. Let's go to this specific unit, that is political aspect. And just take a glance on that. Yes, so now when you see, this is one where you two questions and you are well prepared for your GS, which you will be when you are going to write the mains examination. In GS IR, you are going to study whole, not just Asia, you are going to study the whole of the world, including India's bilateral relationship with different regions of USA, Europe, or Russia as such. But if you see over here, the geographical aspect only focuses on geopolitics of India. And when you say geopolitics of India, it would be purely related to something around South Asia or some regions or extension up to that. So in fact, this whole unit which is there, it's a subsection and a very small part of what you prepare in IR in your GS, where definitely you don't have to study it separately. Similarly, if you take a glance at the last unit, contemporary issues, check over there, unit 10, paper 2. It's almost disaster management. And you see, more or less, they are very general topics. Even if you have not read anything about it, and if you get suddenly out of nowhere these type of topics, still you will be able to write something. You're not going to leave the answer sheet blank. So this is the aspect we are talking about, that there are certain areas which make this particular subject very safe. And so a minimum threshold which you can attain is always there. You just have to use your GS knowledge, in fact, into the optional. So, yes. Absolutely. Okay. ठीक है चलो. So I'll keep this question just for 5-10 minutes, okay, with me right now. Okay, when I will take up very clearly and very honestly what you are saying under the next discussion, that is myths about geography. Okay, I'll in fact from my side only, if you have heard of one myth, I'll tell you 3 myths. Okay, from my side only, what people say about geography. Okay, and we'll try to understand each and every aspect of that. Okay, so first thing here, scoring aspect. Getting a clear picture. Okay, how your paper would look like. Similarly, if you see over here, this paper too, especially your agriculture part, your industry part, these are something which you very straightforward study in GS, under geography also, under economy also. So these are the aspects related to the scoring aspect. So one, that is the nature, being popular. Then I'll write over here no prerequisite. No prerequisite, what do we mean by over here is primarily what I already told you, that for taking up this optional, a good thing is you do not need to study anything prior to this. No thing prior to this. Yes, it is definitely beneficial. One says that, okay, if you are starting with geography, it's better you may have read 6th to 10th NCERT or 6th to 12th NCERT you have already read. People do that, and there is nothing wrong in that. But one thing very clearly we say that, okay, even if you have not done it, no problem, absolutely. Because this optional this optional takes you right there from level 0 to level 10, going very systematically. Next is about the syllabus. Now, about the syllabus, first thing, positive thing, let's say, about the syllabus is what I call as very well-defined syllabus. Well-defined syllabus, the idea over here is in geography, actually, UPSC has very clearly laid out every aspect of the syllabus. They have mentioned the unit under that, what are the topics and subtopics, in fact, you are supposed to study, that also has been mentioned in the syllabus. Which makes it very clear now that for studying this particular subject, you only have to focus on covering each and every words that have been mentioned in your syllabus. Just focus on A to Z, covering each and every term. If you have done that, not a single question can come out of that. Which is good thing, wherein we say that there is no hidden part of the syllabus. Generally, it can be anything. Like, say, for example, if I geomorphology, now you figure out what all you have to study under geomorphology. This is where it becomes hidden part. Okay, I'm mentioning this particular topic, but within that, because the topic is very vast and you have not mentioned exactly the subtopics, it becomes very difficult to figure out. And that's where the surprises comes in examination. But here, because the syllabus has been very well defined, it becomes extremely easy for us, okay, to cover the syllabus. Along with that, another very good thing about this particular subject is the books or standard material. Wherein for this subject especially, there are a lot of standard materials available in the market. So there can never be a dearth of reference material for this subject. Even, in fact, you will find that if you just want to read population geography, which is only one unit, you'll find this much of book on population geography. or settlement geography, there would be a separate book altogether for only one unit. So the idea is, I'm not saying that you will have to read each and every my task to do. Okay, but the idea that there is no dearth of material. Whenever you want reference to anything in the subject, okay, always, and all of these are standard books available. Okay, and not just, the good thing is all of these are not just the books written by foreign authors, which is in the major cases. Okay, here in geography, a lot of Indian geographers have written standard books, which are very good quality books. And the benefit is, when an Indian geographer writes a book about geography, okay, they write it from Indian perspective, which is what we have to write in the UPSC examination. We cannot always quote the examples that foreign authors are using. Okay, sometimes yes, we mix things, but yet the material availability. In addition to that, one good thing, again about scoring only I say, is where in GS also generally this is a rule that you have to make your answer more presentable. It's not just about the content. So pretty much in GS we use flowcharts, diagrams and all. In geography it comes naturally. In GS sometimes we have to force into that. Like physical geography has a lot of scope. You don't have to memorize any diagram. Just what you are thinking, the image that you have created in your mind for that particular process, you just draw it, whatever. Okay. Like this particular aspect, see over here, there are two crusts which are moving out, lava is coming out. I just draw arrows, draw lines and do that, and done, my diagram is ready. So I don't memorize any diagram, but yet almost in every physical geography answer I end up making a diagram. Similarly in paper 2, you can use a lot of maps, Indian map, okay, in paper 1 world map. So a lot of tools are naturally available in this particular subject, which makes writing the answer very interesting over here and makes it highly presentable. So in geography, you will find a lot of diversity answer. In the beginning, I started that you will not find too much of diversity in the content. But if you will read answer, when I read the answer, when I check the answers from test, and if I pick up 10 answers which are the best answers, those themselves are completely different. But all of those 10 are getting good marks, because there is nothing as a standard over here. It's all innovation. Okay, someone is drawing a different diagram, you are drawing a different diagram. Someone is showing it by flowchart, you start showing it by spider diagram. It's on you, but you get a lot of scope over here. One query that I always get is, sir, I was never good in drawing. So I always say, drawing, this is not painting. You don't have to be Picasso for this. Is this drawing? Okay, I draw this very roughly, I show this going down, I draw this going down, I show magma coming up. How come this is drawing? No drawing skills over here. In fact, map also, it's a freehand map drawing. In examination, you don't get the time that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you are drawing a map of India only. You have to draw it within 1 minute. Okay, which means everyone is drawing the same type of distorted map. Okay, it's a freehand drawing. But yet, the tool at your disposal, that's what we are talking about. That at least you have natural tools at your disposal to use in your answers. And over the period of time, you can develop it very well. So that's the aspect related to what this subject is about. In addition to that, a very, very important dimension related to geography is its GS overlap. Now, if you see the GS overlap for this, first I'll show you the syllabus of where in mains examination it has been mentioned, it means GS. So first, geography finds a mention in paper 1, where explicitly it is geography. And if you see salient features of world physical geography, or this is about the economic geography, natural resources, industry, or if you see geophysical phenomena, which is nothing but extension of physical geography. This is what has been mentioned in paper 1. Okay, which here in GS you study at primary level, in optional you take it at master level. So what we expect is you are going to get somewhere around 7 to 8 to 9 questions from this section in paper 1, and with your optional well prepared, you are not going to leave a single question in this. In fact, you are going to write some of the best answers in these 7 to 8 questions. And mind one thing, okay, in examination GS paper, at the maximum efficiency level, what you write the answers is 12, 13, 14. Anyone. Okay, all the 20 cannot be written with the same quality. Time does not permit it primarily. And some random questions, of course, are there. So out of your target of that 10, 12, 13 questions, which have to be written with the best quality, okay, 6 to 7 to 8 questions are here only, for which you don't have to prepare separately. Going beyond that, there is paper 3, in which if you see, although paper 3 mentions, GS paper 3 mentions economic development aspect. Okay, but there if you see the parts related, crops, cropping pattern, this is all what you study under agriculture chapter in paper 2. Infrastructure, energy, ports, again in paper 2, there is a chapter related to this. Then conservation, environment, degradation, environmental geography, disaster, disaster management, contemporary, that I have shown you, paper 2, unit 10. So a major part of paper 3 also gets covered from here. But in addition to that, now most importantly, if I take you back again to the syllabus, what I see is you are going to just tell me which units would be directly applicable to your GS. First, yes. Second, third, soil and all. Absolutely yes. Environment, ecology, biodiversity. Perspective in human geography, no. Okay, these are theories over here. Economic geography, yes. Population settlement, yes. Regional planning, absolutely yes. In your GS, you will get a lot of questions. Models and theories, no. Okay, done. Let's move on to paper 2 interestingly. Physical settings, Himalayas, peninsula resources, minerals and all, agriculture, industry, transport, communication, cultural setting, tribes and all, yes. Settlement, absolutely yes. Smart city, city planning. Then you have regional development, absolutely yes. Political aspect, IR, and contemporary issue, yes. Disaster management. How many units in total we have? 20. How many are purely exclusive to geography, optional? Only 2. Okay. Which also in general we combine with this chapter itself. 18 units out of 20 you directly use in GS. What more you can ask for? This is almost like extended GS you are studying. This is not optional. I call it extended GS. It's like 1 year I have prepared very well for GS only, thinking that I don't have any optional altogether. Second, third year I am again revising the GS and preparing it in depth, and another optional is itself covered under that. So that's the level of GS overlap we are talking about. Everything that you study, you directly use in GS. Okay, so these are the aspects related to geography as the optional. What we get in this particular optional, and what are the pros part. Now let's move on to the idea of what people talk about this subject. Yes, because I got one question straightforward. Okay, definitely. The first idea is the syllabus is lengthy. My first answer would be yes, absolutely. I'll not contest this idea. Syllabus is lengthy, absolutely. But when the syllabus being How do you cover aspects to that? First thing, the syllabus is lengthy because what you see in your syllabus is every subtopic has also been mentioned. Secondly, because it covers so much different dimensions of GS altogether, that it covers almost everything, 360 degree of what you have to study for UPSC. That's why syllabus is lengthy. But a counter to this always would be, chalo, you do not take geography optional, you have some other optional. Can you prepare your UPSC examination without studying agriculture? Still will study it. I'll study 3 more topics. If you don't have geography as optional, would you not study industry? You still will study industry. Or political aspect, or disaster management, or developmental programs of government, schemes of government, or anything for that matter. So what happens over here is syllabus is lengthy because yes, definitely it covers a great dimension of GS. So it has to be lengthy. And secondly, because every topic and subtopic has been explicitly mentioned in your syllabus, it takes up so much of space. But if you see practically, while preparing this particular subject, okay, any other subject XYZ takes 4.5 months to prepare, this subject also takes the same. Start all the optionals together, will almost end together, almost. Okay, there can be a difference of 5-10 classes. Okay, but we are going to almost end together. Okay, every other subject will need one revision on your part. This subject will also need one more revision on your part. So yes, syllabus is lengthy, but yes, this is a UPSC examination. Okay, we are here to give in our efforts. Find shortcuts. Okay, in terms of short syllabus, lengthy syllabus, syllabus is there to remain. You can't do anything about it. Okay, like you don't complain about GS syllabus, you can't do, because there you are not choosers. If it is a syllabus, that is a syllabus. Exactly. So here I'll have to figure out effort to return ratio. Okay, it will demand some effort from you, some additional effort from you. But the returns are quite extensive because of its application in GS, not just what you score in optional. So that's what justifies the lengthiness of this particular subject. Secondly, the myth that you have to, there is a lot of rote memorization. You have to memorize a lot of facts, which is absolutely 100% incorrect. From the face value, geography looks like you have to memorize this also, you memorize this also, you have to memorize river, you have to memorize this tributary, which is nothing conceptual, all rote memorization. But no, absolutely not. In GS, they can ask you this river is tributary of that river. In optional, they are not going to ask you. In optional, they are going to ask you, okay, discuss the theories related to the evolution of Himalayan rivers. This is conceptual. So in fact, the whole subject throughout is conceptual. In between that, facts would be there to corroborate your claims. Facts are there, but facts are not rote memorization, and the subject is not about the fact. Definitely, in every subject, you will have to learn some facts. Okay, isn't it the case that while writing GS answer, you memorize, okay, this is world population, this is India's population, or these many percentage of people in India are below poverty line, or this is the literacy rate percentage of India. But that's not the subject. That's the fact that you need to support your answer. And exactly the same thing is over here. There is nothing like you have to learn a lot of facts. Okay, it's all and all pure factual, pure conceptual. You just understand the concept one, and because it is so much conceptual, okay, you do not forget it easily. If you have understood it properly, you can retain it for a very long time. And with just 1 or 2 revisions, it will always remain. Okay, so this is about the subject. about this particular optional. So let's try take some questions from you guys. Anything you want to ask about this? Anything, anything. Yes, we are going to interlink. So the interlinkages when we take, say major linkages are between paper 1 and paper 2. Not much, not much, not much. Okay, within the subject itself, you will find so much of matter that you can interlink between these only. So no need of going beyond this particular scope of the subject. I got that. Okay, like say for example, nowhere in whole of your answer you will nowhere be going to mention any article of the Constitution. Not needed. Okay, this was one example. Okay, as much as in any case. Yes. Yes. Huh. Hmm. Yes. Now that would be definitely dependent on how we have prepared. Okay, it's not just about how many books you have studied. It's about how you have prepared. So how we have prepared, just after that, I'll clarify this particular aspect. Okay, as to how we are going to cover it, how I propose to cover this particular optional. Okay, if it is so much of interlinkages and all. Anything else? Yes? No? Okay. So from here, let's try to understand our modus operandi. Okay, how we are going to cover this whole option. Primarily, the first aspect is all and all the classroom learning. Now, classroom learning, what we are going to do over here, most importantly, how I conduct the classes, is majorly the bidirectional interaction. Because of the nature of the subject, monologue here doesn't work. And because there is a lot of conceptual understanding. Okay, what we try to do over here, most importantly, is to have a sort of discussion sort of understanding of the subject. Of course, the discussion would be led by me, no doubt in that. Okay, but yet definitely open discussion sort of understanding where you are free to ask any concepts. Okay, we can go back and revise some concepts from the schools which we may have forgot. Okay, which I generally assume that we forget. So intention is the first aspect related to that. But going beyond that, most importantly, we are talking about the content part. Now the content part. Content part here, we would be taking up in two forms. The first form, that is the most general topics which are there. Which are general topics? For that, you would be provided the printed handouts. The printed handouts, so that for those topics we do not end up writing. So we save time from there. And what time we save from here, the rest of the portion we are going to have the dictation and writing in the class. Now, dictation and writing has a very important role in optional. Most importantly, first you understand and then you write when I dictate. This becomes instant revision, first of all. And secondly, believe it or not, when you go into writing your mains examination, okay, you will have to have that muscle practice, muscle exercise. 3 hours of continuous writing, that is something of a big deal. So in the dictation and writing mode, we develop the writing practice, we do the instant revision, as well as it becomes your own notes once you write it in your own copy. So the offbeat topics which are there, or very important topics which are there, which have deep concepts involved. Okay, that is something that we are going to write over here. The content part in this case, because has come up, we are going to talk about the material in this case. Obviously, very obviously, a lot of books are available. But most importantly here, our reference books, when we are going to cover the geography optional, we are going to own some 4 to 5 standard books, or let's say 3 to 4 will do, okay, which are standard books. Apart from that, the material that I'll give you and the printed notes, they themselves are compilation of the best books available in the market. Okay, and I have been doing this from last 10 years. So I have almost all the books, all the available standard books which are there. Okay, and so the notes are already compilation of the best materials here and there. So now the question, if someone has read any other book, first 90%, my guarantee that no one would have done that. Because first it is itself a challenge to cover the syllabus. Okay, then you go for a specialized population geography book and read it. Okay, that is something where that person is not your serious competitor then. Because then that person has no time to study GS at all. That person is into PhD in population geography, not UPSC. Getting the point? So, with your notes, okay, everything else properly. People are using it from years, people are getting results from there. So, what we are going to do is, we are going to stick with our notes. Reference materials, actively we would be using 3 to 4 that I told you. Okay, where very obviously, it's very natural that if something is given very one book, why should I change it? You should have access to that particular language also, and you should know that language. So there are certain books when we would be doing some chapters, okay, in the class, I'll tell you, okay, bring this book tomorrow. You bring the book tomorrow, I'll discuss the topic, I'll tell you page number, paragraph number, open it, read it. Let's underline this. And later you go back to your place, you note it down in your notebook. So the best books which are there, you will not be deprived. We will, wherever possible, we are going to minimize that, but yes, we are going to use that actively also where it is required. We'll use every possible source and means which will enable us to get the best possible marks over here. Yes. Yes. That will suffice. That is more than enough. That is more than enough. That's what I am saying. For some topics specifically, I'll tell you that, okay, this paragraph of this book done. That's all. Not back to back, you have to read any book. Absolutely not. Books will purchase certain books, 3 to 4, but very selectively, I'll tell you only this part, only this part. Don't deviate from there. That I will read this also, I'll know more, I'll score more. It is not going to happen. So, for content part, that's from my side, it would be the guarantee part that you can depend entirely on the content that would be provided in the class. No additional reading is required. So that's the content part. That's how we are going to cover that. Apart from that, most important focus for us would be on answer writing. Now, in answer writing, the pattern that we are going to follow is one particular section, not whole chapter also. One particular part of the chapter once we have completed, and we get substantial number of questions from that part. All the previous year questions which have come from that particular section, okay, we are going to write that also. Once we write that, we are going to discuss that in the class also. And for the most important ones which repeatedly do come, I would be providing you with the model answers also. So what we are trying to do is we are going to write a lot. That's the very important focus. And more so over, we would try to write good number of questions in the class itself, so that the laziness factor do not come into picture. Because once I give you a question that, okay, this is a home assignment, try it. Okay, it goes into past tense and it remains in past tense only. So nothing like that. Okay, we can dedicate 7 minutes, 10 minutes in the class also. Of course, not every day. Occasionally, we are going to do that, but it will keep you in practice. So that by the end of our course, we have written good number of questions, and we have absolutely upped our level of writing or standard of writing or how we use the terminologies. So that's the answer writing part of that. Apart from that, most importantly, what we are going to do is, yes, we are going to use a lot of participatory practices. And when I say participatory practices, in those cases, your engagement is very important in this type of learning. Because see, optional is something which has to develop some interest in you. Because when we talk about the factors which should go into consideration while deciding your optional, the most important thing is interest. Every day you have to come to the class for 5 months. Every day you are going to spend 2 hours on that. Okay, when you compare it with GS, the subjects keep changing. Okay, for 5 months you have to study this. That's not all. After that, you'll have to carry this subject till you get selected. So there cannot be any case where you should lose your interest. In that case, you do not have an interest and you took the subject just because your friend took it, or just because somebody told you. No. Basic idea, every subject is as good and as bad. As good because every subject gives selection, as bad because every subject we require to study. That's bad. We have to study. So I say all of them are equally good and equally bad. The only point in consideration is what can keep me going, which I can take for completely, go with it for 1 year, 2 year, whatever time I need. Okay, I can stick with that particular subject. And so we are going to do a lot of engagement activities, participatory activities. So how I conduct the classes is where, yes, we are going to take up the subject, but along with that, you guys would be required to prepare some presentations. Randomly, I'll assign it to you. Okay, this particular topic, you prepare a presentation. Okay, next day come in the class, give a 10 minutes presentation in front of everyone. Okay, let's take question and answer. Of course, I would be there to moderate everything. So I'm going to clear the doubts if you are not able to do that. But it would be all participatory. Primarily, we are going to engage you so that engagement is more, learning is more. And that's where overall, you can see over here, there would be supplementary videos to help you. Okay, first thing. Okay, along with that, this is one such example where you can see these are the videos on my YouTube channel where our optional students have prepared these videos. Okay, raw videos. It's not like you have to do it professionally. But for that particular session time, I upload it onto the channel so that it is available for everyone. Plus, it gives you more encouragement, more push to do things also. So all of these have been our optional students only, okay, whose videos have been uploaded over here. So these type of topics we take. You can see urban settlement geography, Chandigarh urban morphology, or infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, slums and related issues, general topics, okay, that we study under human geography. Of course, physical geography and all this is not possible because that's pure conceptual. That's where I have to explain things to you. But yes, just the example of how it's more of participatory approach, how it's more of engaging you and learning. And that's where the whole idea now, after this learning process, most important that we get the question is the assessment part. Now, assessment part related to this subject would be, let's say, in 2 phases, or in our case, in fact, it will go to 3 phases. First is active answer writing that you guys are going to do. That already I have told you, we are going to do it very regularly. Yes. In geography, there are generally no indirect questions. Because the topics have been very clearly mentioned, so you will get a straightforward questions. So the assessment part, what I was saying is the three parts wherein the first part over here would be straightforward. The part where you will we are going to do the active answer writing. The active answer, when I give you the previous year question model answers, that itself is where you can self-assess, and along with that you will get those answers checked by me. So that is a continuous process that will go on for 5 months. Along with that, once substantial portions are covered, we will have regular class tests. Not after every chapter, because length of different chapters are different. Some chapters are very small, so we will club 2 chapters and take a test. But the class tests also would go along with your syllabus. So these are 2 stages of assessment over here that itself is provided. Going beyond that, the third stage would be where around October, November, we will start the test series program. This test series program you can find there in your handout. Okay, the last page that I have attached over there has given the details of that. You can see over there. Okay, it's a program for 16 tests. 8 tests would be before the prelims and 8 tests after the prelims. All of these tests would be available to you within the course only. So what we are going to do is, by November or so, by November, early December, we are going to complete this, our syllabus. You start taking tests just after that, and you take the tests, 8 tests before the prelims, after the prelims again 8 tests. This would be your final level of assessment, which would be proper UPSC pattern. At any point of time, what you will find is there would be no lack of the avenues for assessment primarily. Okay. Throughout the classes, ongoing classes itself, you will get all the avenues for your assessment, and it would be a continuous process, so that we do not just get engrossed in covering the syllabus. This is the biggest mistake that majority of the people make. Okay, just we are focused on completing the syllabus, never keeping in mind that what we are doing it for. We are completing the syllabus to write the exam. And if you don't know how to write the examination, why you are completing the syllabus? The basic idea is, even if you are completing 60 to 70% of the syllabus, it applies to any subject, every subject. Even GS, even if you are covering only 70%, your writing part should be parallel, has to be parallelly prepared. That okay, if I say write about this 70% part, even if you are able to write it properly, you are going to get selected. So regular answer writings plus checking by me, feedbacks proper, then class tests, and then this whole test series that would be available. So this will complete our cycle. What will start from June, okay, it will go till, let's say, next October or September, okay, when finally you have written all the FLTs and reach your examination, take your mains examination. Yes, so the assessment part. And so in whole of this learning process, what I have explained to you till now, okay, I identify it in terms of these 3 phases. Where first phase primarily we call this inexperience phase. Inexperience phase is where you see the learning curve is quite low. This would be the time of basic concept building. This is a general learning curve, okay, not related to geography also, but I use it in geography primarily. Is where in the beginning phase, let's say initial 1 month or so, once we start, you introduction to geography. So you gradually will the ideas, the concepts, and so learning in terms of learning levels, it would be less, but we'll stretch it very easily, very intentionally, so that not to rush you. It has to be naturally going. And from here, from let's say I identify somewhere around 1.5 months, from there you will enter this phase, and you can see the steep learning curve over here. And this is what I was talking about, the engagement part. This is where you have already developed the basic concepts, you have developed the idea of geography. Okay, geography is an idea, geography is an approach, geography is not a subject. Okay, once you study geography, you'll get to know that you'll start using geography everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. It's application, it's an approach, it's a thinking. And so once that has been inculcated, your learning process becomes very fast. And then you reach this level. This level is where by the time 5th month or so is where you would be able to cover 4 or 5 topics per day. Because you know now almost everything. Okay, it's just that you are compiling everything and you are trying to figure out the application part of what you have learned throughout this whole process. And this is the phase in which you will be taking your tests also. And so this goes up to your, let's say, September. So September 24, I am putting it over here. June 23, I am putting it over here. Let's keep over here August 23. And let's keep it over here December 23. This is what we are talking about. So whole of the learning process over here has to be properly scientific. That's what I believe. Okay, scientific learning, proper patterned learning. Okay, it has not to be random. Okay, detailing I have given you, that it's not just that me coming to the class and teaching you anything, okay, randomly. Okay, and whatever I feel like. Definitely, we are setting expectations for you. Okay, you should know how the things should be going there, so that at any point of you are going to cross verify, this is what I was told and this is how things are going on, which means you know everything is going according to the plan, because plan has already been presented to you. Okay, so this is whole of the learning part. So the two parts now about the syllabus. First about the geography subject, about the syllabus, understanding the syllabus, decoding the syllabus, and now finally how we are going to do that, okay, with respect to attaining our goal. Now open to you, anything from my side, that's it. Classes will roughly end around November. It's almost like 4.5 months, 5 months we are going to take, plus minus 1 week, you keep it. Again, the books, once we start, I'll let you know. Okay, in the first class, we'll discuss that only, in fact. Okay, first class of optional would be dedicated to again understanding everything. Okay, yes, please. Yes, please. What study material will be provided for geography? Study material would be in the form of, from our side, if you see, it would be in the form of the handouts. Okay, so handouts plus the dictation that I'll give, that you will have to note it down. Would be sufficient. Plus few reference books. We'll talk about that in the first class when we start the course. Okay, and when and where to use that, I'll. Okay, but that's it. We'll have limited material. Yes. What's the importance or relevance of current affairs? Relevance of current affairs for paper 2, current affairs would be relevant, because if you see the chapters like agriculture, the chapter like industry, population, settlement, everywhere if you give reference to something what has happened currently as a case study also, it's always good. Questions do not come directly so that you have to leave anything. Okay, it's just for value addition of your answer. If you give a reference, that's good. You end up getting 1 marks more than another guys. What would be the timings for these optional classes? Because I'm also a student of Timings and all, you will be conveyed by the management. Okay, you can inquire it. Okay. Yes, yes, madam. Just a moment. I'll come back. I'll come back to you. Just a moment. Yes. No, absolutely not. For political aspect unit, you will write exactly the answer you write in IR. Absolutely nothing. Okay, there would be two theories related to political geography that I'll teach you. If those theories are asked directly, you use it. Otherwise, you directly write what you write in IR. In fact, we do not study political aspects separately for geography. Okay, we directly take it from GS itself. So direct application. Yes, yes, please. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Yes, please, Prajakta. Actually, I have a one query. Is there any need section B of paper one than section A? As I hear that there will be more questions from section B, and they are more. So, first thing, more questions. There is nothing like that. Okay, because the very clearly segregated in the paper itself. As far as second part of your query is concerned, second person to person. See, I'll not comment on that because some people, like there is a chapter called as perspective in human geography. Okay, some people do find that chapter difficult. Okay, models and theories. Some people do find that particular part to be difficult. Okay, whereas for some people that is much more easier than writing about physical geography. But of course, yes, physical geography, we generally suggest that 3 plus 2 you have to attempt from part A, part B in the paper. Generally, 3 questions from part B if you attempt, there is more chance of physical geography part, there is very little scope of writing anything different from other people. It is very standard. In paper 2, you get a more little bit of more space to value add. This is one thing for sure, but it's nothing like what is important. Okay, yes. Yes, anyone else, anything. हाँ. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. ठीक है. See, first thing, we are not going to leave anything. ठीक है. हाँ. One chapter like political aspect and all, we do not cover separately. Okay, that's one thing that's directly derived from IR. Okay. Physical geography, world physical geography, yes, it do take more time because it is vast, it is lengthy. But in no case we are going to compromise on part 2 or paper 2. Okay, it would be almost like equal division. You will feel it like to be more time devoted to physical geography because part B of paper 1 would be clubbed with paper 2. Like take for example, if you are talking about population and settlement geography in paper 1 and cultural setting and power settlement geography in paper 2, they are not to be studied separately. We'll take it up together. Okay, first you talk about the theories and all which is in paper 1, apply it to paper 2. So 3 chapters would be clubbed together. So that's where almost half of the time would be we would be giving to paper 1 part 1, geomorphology, climatology, ocean geography. Okay, and half of the time for the remaining, that's how we distribute it. So we will give good emphasis on human geography because that is the scoring part. Yes, absolutely. So we are not going to overload you with information. Okay, that's not the purpose. What we will do is that particular journey that I told you, na, that 250 to 60 is something very easily you can reach. Of my target is 280 to 90. That jump of 30 to 40 marks, that is dependent on current affairs. And our sources are very clear. Yojana, Kurukshetra, GNY magazine, 2 or 3 these are there. Okay, everything is not required from there. Very obviously, when the edition will come, at least during our preparation time, okay, whatever edition of Yojana, Kurukshetra, GNY will come. Okay, in the class I'll tell you, okay, this is the article. That's it. And not more than one article is required from those things. You are not required to read back to back anything. And in Yojana, one article is 2 pages. That's it. That's also font more than half page from A4 sheet. That's it. So enrichment will do. Content enrichment will do a lot. Taking care of the fact that I should overview information. Because information overload is easy. Okay, information processing from your side is the most critical aspect of this. So that will be taken care of. Okay, we'll take it parallelly. And enrichment happen, but no overloading happens. Yes, anyone else? Anything? More than sufficient. Uh, would be similar, but now you know that optional covers a lot of subjects. The geomorphology part and all, yes, you can get an idea. In fact, yes, absolutely. Okay, because there we talk about a school level syllabus. Okay, here in any optional, the syllabus you prescribes is first year post graduation. So very obviously, plate tectonic, you end your GS there. Okay, I always say we generally start from there. So where we end in GS, we start in optional from there. Although we will again read everything here, but you can get an idea definitely what you are supposed to study, especially climatology. Climatology is almost same, 70% same. The programs and schemes, no, absolutely not. Okay, we are going to make minimal use of them, very specific. That is what we study in GS again. Exactly the same applies over here. Nothing separately has to be prepared here. In uh, Yojana magazines, we are going to cover primarily Yojana as well as Kurukshetra would be related to our human geography aspect. Most importantly, population geography, settlement geography. Then we have GNY, Geography and New Magazine. Okay, that covers the other aspects where the environmental aspects come into picture. Okay, the contemporary issue chapter, unit 10, paper 2, that is covered from there. That's it. Nothing that everything has to be covered with respect to current affairs. This is more of a traditional subject. Okay, so we stick to the traditional topics, traditional concepts, and done. Absolutely. Terminology is very important for any optional for that matter. Okay, the language of that particular subject has to be that one only. Can't write it in general language. Yes, anyone. That's it. Chalo. Okay, everyone, then that's it for today. Thank you.